Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Japan once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel many times before. Now, I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last few years, a good few different styles, and if people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they are very solid all round. They're a very well established and very well respected name within the Japanese craft beer scene, and pretty much every beer I've had from these guys has been pretty damn solid. But you probably will find quite a few people that will talk about the IPAs that this brewery produce, and I think it's fair to say that those are potentially the most accessible styles from this brewery. At least those are the ones that tend to be canned most often, and those are definitely worth checking out should you come across them. But the beer that we're going to have a look at from these guys today is a style that I haven't tried from this brewery before. This beer is a little bit more unusual than some of the other ones that I've come across from this brewery in the past as well, but it is supposed to be very nice, and the kind of unusual character of this beer, I guess you could say, is what made it kind of pique my interest. So needless to say, I'm very, very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, like I said, we are going to head over to Japan. We are going to go to Aichi Prefecture, which is almost right in the centre of the country, and we're going to go to the city of Nagoya. And that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Y Market Brewing. So this particular beer is called Decorian. It comes in at 7% ABV, and this one, I've seen two things that this beer has been listed as. I've seen Untappd listing this one as a black IPA or Cascadian dark ale, but I've also seen this one listed as a fruited Belgian dark ale. So from what I understand, this one has quite a lot of American hops in it, which we'll come to later, but it's also got a little bit of Shiranui or Dekopon peels into it, which is a sort of like Mandarin hybrid. So yeah, in all honesty, I'm really not sure what to expect of this one, but I am quite excited to try it. So yeah, let's just see what this beer has got in store for us. So yeah, the Decorian, a 7% either Belgian fruited ale or black IPA Cascadian dark ale from the wonderful Y Market Brewing in Nagoya in Aichi Prefecture over in Japan. So a massive shout out in this video to my good friend Scott Linder. He was over in Nagoya a couple of weeks back, and he brought this one back for me, and yeah, this is one that just really struck my interest, if you like. And I'm also seeing on the can here, yeah, these guys are listing this one as a Belgian fruits ale as well, actually. So yeah, maybe it's going to be somewhere between like a Belgian Double potentially and some sort of black IPA. But yeah, we'll need to see how this goes. But Scott has certainly picked me out quite an interesting beer for this review, so a big thank you to him for making this one possible. But yeah, let's crack on with it then and see what this beer is going to have in store for us. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Y Market Brewing before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that, though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Japanese playlist along with a number of other things. That's being added to quite regularly, of course, because we get quite a number of Japanese beers here in Hong Kong, and I do go over there to visit my son very often too, and I love my Japanese beers, but do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days, even if I do say so myself. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Y Market Brewing once again then. So yeah, Y Market Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in the city of Nagoya in Aichi Prefecture in Japan, and it's part of the same parent company that owns the Okadaya liquor shops, which are run by Yasuhiro Yamamoto. So They started out with a very small brew house in the Yanagibashi market, hence the name Y Market Brewing, and this was mainly composed, this area, the Y Market or Yanagibashi market, was mainly composed of different food and drink wholesale businesses, and they supplied the restaurants all around Nagoya city. And if you go to Nagoya, there's not a lot in terms in the way of like historical things and touristy spots if you like, but it is a very good food and drink city, I have to say. It's quite a commercial city, to be honest with you. A lot of the big businesses are based there. But yeah, in the early days, Y Market Brewing hired Kachi Makoto to come in as the head brewer. He had previously worked for Kisoji Beer in southern Nagano, and apparently he'd gotten interested in craft beer and home brewing after discovering craft beer in Montreal in Quebec over in Canada. But they opened the brew pub in March of 2014, so these guys are a very well established brewery, one of the OGs, I guess, if you like, of the American style beers in Japan. But you can find the brew pub on the second floor of the brewery, and they started out with just a very small 1,000 litre brewing system that Kachi designed himself. But over the last few years they've continued to expand. They've been building up their market and building their brewing capacity, and just putting up their output and distributing their beers further afield. But they still operate the original brewery and tap room, which is known now these days as Y Market Brewing Kitchen, but they've also got a larger production facility in the Nishi ward of the city. But they directly run a few venues. This includes Craft Beer Keg, Yanagibashi Terrace, craft restaurant Nagoroba, which is in Nagoya City, and they've also got one in Gifu, which is called Yale Ale Gifu. You'll find that one in Gifu City, of course, which is just a wee bit to the north of Nagoya, of course. But yeah, like I said, over the years these guys have become a very well established and very well respected name within the Japanese craft beer scene, probably best known for their different IPAs, which I really would recommend that you try. And as of November 2025, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced over 675 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. So yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Y Market Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Untappd page as well to learn a wee bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, another thing you can check out as well is my out and about video that I did when I went to Nagoya recently with my good friend Jordan of Jordan Outsider Inside Japan, if I'm remembering his channel name correctly. I always tell him he needs to just name it Jordan in Japan. But yeah, he's got some really nice Japanese cultural videos, and you can also check out his Nagoya beer map video that he did, which I think is very, very cool. But yeah, as I say, that's everything about Y Market Brewing just now. Let's actually focus on the beer a little bit then. So like I said to you earlier on, this one comes in at 7% ABV. It's listed on Untappd as a Cascadian Dark Ale Black IPA because it's quite heavily hopped with different American hops. But Y Market Brewing are calling this one a Belgian fruit ale, so probably it's going to be like a very hoppy Belgian double with a bit of fruit adjunct into it. I think that's what we're kind of letting ourselves in for with this beer. But yeah, this one is hopped with Simcoe, Citra, Chinook and Amarillo. We know all of these hops quite well. All of them are of American origin, of course. Simcoe at 12% alpha acid. It's going to give you a lot of kind of soft passion fruity characters for the most part, but when you put it in a darker malt base, it gives you some really nice like figgy and blackcurranty kind of characters. Citra, of course, 14% alpha acid again, lots of juicy mango, lots of lemon limey character as well. Chinook is going to give you quite a bit of pine resin, but a lot of grapefruity character. It's usually about 14% alpha acid too. Amarillo, one of my favourite American hops, 12% alpha acid. Big oily zesty oranges. So yeah, Simcoe, Citra, Chinook and Amarillo in this one, along with Shiranui slash Dekopon peels. And like I said to you, that fruit apparently is a sort of like mandarin hybrid. So I think we're in for quite an orangey and sort of malty beer this one. We'll just need to see. But I think that's everything I can really tell you about this one. So I'll just let you have a wee look at the artwork on this before we open it up. And I have to say, it looks very, very nice, this one. So I guess it's named after the shape that's on the label there, this one. So yeah, it looks really quite nice, this one. I guess this is like a kind of geometric shape based on the shape of the Dekopon, actually. But yeah, plain silver top on the can there. This one is 355 milliliters, which is quite common in Japan. And there you can see another one of the Y Market Brewing symbols just on the back of the can there. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass then and see what it's all about. I will say the can is a little bit hard on this, so I'm hoping that it behaves itself. Just going to open this very cautiously, and it actually has behaved itself there. Just a wee bit of foam trying to escape from this one, but yeah, it seems to be all right. So yeah, there we go. Let's have a wee look at this. I'm just going to pour this one carefully, because if it is a Belgian style beer, then it's going to have like brew sugar added into it and things. Yeah, because with Belgian beers, very often they add a little bit of brew sugar into them, so that's why you get the higher ABVs, but not quite the same thickness in the mouthfeel, and it's also why you get a lot of kind of carbonation on these things too. But yeah, that's poured quite nicely. So before the head disappears on this one, we can see that it's poured with about 1/3 finger of a frothy, kind of fawn coloured head there. You can see that head is fading away quite quickly, just to leave a very thin foamy layer there. But yeah, it's going to leave a nice ring just around the edge of the glass. But you can see medium-sized bubbles sitting on the surface of the liquid there, and it's a little bit, it's kind of soapier the further up that you go. But all in all, this one, I have to say, looks pretty nice. So in terms of colour, if I shine the light through this, it actually, I think to you guys on the camera, it's going to look like a sort of very dark ebony rosewood colour. But I think if we shine the light through it, it has got a little bit of that kind of more Coca-Cola, Pepsi sort of coloured edge to it. So yeah, looks really quite nice, this one. So remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker coloured beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But when it comes to like black beers and things, it's very difficult to affect the colour of your beer. And I'm really not sure how much, you know, the Dekopon peel and things like that that's in this beer is going to affect the colour of this one. So yeah, we just need to see about that. But yeah, as I say, really interesting colour, this one. It has got a little bit of natural haze to it, if you like, but yeah, not too much in the way of visible carbonation otherwise. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, and just a few little ones coming up toward the surface of the liquid there and breaking that surface. So yeah, all in all, the way this one goes together, I think, is really nice. But yeah, it looks a little bit, actually looks a little bit more along the lines of a quadruple or something, but it's 7% ABV, it's nowhere near the strength for that. I think you need about 10 or 11% ABV for it to be a quadruple. So yeah, as I say, appearance-wise, wasn't 100% sure what to expect from this one, but it does have a little bit of that more kind of like black IPA sort of double type appearance, in all honesty. So yeah, let's leave it at that for the appearance then, and we'll go on and have a wee look at the aroma of this one then, because I'm sure we'll get quite a wee bit more out of that rather than anything else. So let's do it. Let's have a wee look. Okay. So yeah, aroma-wise, this one, it's really quite interesting. This Dekopon thing that's coming out of it, I don't even really know how to describe that. It has, there's something very familiar about this because of some of the Japanese sauces and things like that. Is it maybe like the ponsai sauce that I've had before that this really reminds me of? It's got that very kind of pungent, citrusy sort of note to it. What's it called? Decamancy? I forget the name of that fruit. But yeah, it's got this really kind of pungent, citrusy character to it. And if, as I say, if you've tried a lot of different Japanese foods and sauces and things like that, there's just something that's very familiar about this, actually. So yeah, that's the kind of pungent underlying note that comes out of this beer. But yeah, if you sugar it up, you start to get a little bit more of the beer side of things. But yeah, that Shiranui Dekopon type of character that's coming out of this one, that citrus peel basically, that's really quite pungent in the aroma of this beer. But let's try and focus on the other elements that are coming out of this one. But I think this is going to be one of these beers where we'll get more complexity out of the flavour than we really are going to with the aroma. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. We're here to describe the flavour of beers, of course. But yeah, so aroma-wise, the backbone of this beer, you've got a lovely little bit of a kind of fresh rye bready bread crust in there. It's got a little bit of kind of toastiness to it, so yeah, a little bit of a yeah, lovely little bit of kind of toasty rye bready bread crust in there. Some sweeter, oily rye bready character as well. And yeah, above that you get more of a kind of wholemeal brown bready character too. So yeah, rye bready bread crust, straight up rye bread, a more wholemeal brown bready character as well. Teeny little bit of almost nutty character coming out of this one, and certainly elements of woodiness as well. And yeah, above that, I can smell a little bit of brown sugary character to the beer. There's a little bit of like toasty caramel, maybe a little bit of a more leathery caramel as well, and some sweet kind of, yeah, just a bit of like sweet straight up caramel in all honesty. Yeah, there's a wee bit of like candied sugar to this one too, which I think is really interesting. So yeah, a wee bit of like candied sugar to this beer, but yeah, all in all, the way the way the malty side of this beer goes together, I have to say it is quite interesting. But yeah, the Dekopon that's in this one, it really is quite pungent, so that's kind of dominating everything else on the yeah, that's kind of dominating everything else in the aroma there. So yeah, all in all, the way this one goes together, I think, is quite interesting from that malty side of things. Now the yeasty side of the beer, which with a Belgian beer, at least in my opinion, that plays quite a big role. So yeah, the yeasty side of this beer for me, at the back of the nose, it's got quite a sweet, like wholemeal brown bready character to it, but it's almost got a little bit of an almost caramel sponge cakey type character as well. So I'm finding that really interesting in this one. So yeah, wholemeal brown bread, kind of caramel sponge, and a wee bit of yeah, and a little bit of a more kind of how would we say, a little bit of a slightly wholemeal brown bready bread crust as well. The yeasty character in this one is quite nice, and it does add a little bit more kind of dryness to the beer, and the more that I smell of this one, the more I get of that kind of yeasty character coming out of it. So yeah, I think in honesty that's everything we really need to say about the malty and yeasty side of things then. So let's focus on the hoppy and fruity side of the beer. So yeah, green component wise then, for me, there's a few things going on with this one which is quite interesting. So there's definitely, in that green component, there's definitely a little touch of earthiness to this one. So that's absolutely apparent in this. I don't really get much in the way of pine resin, but one of the things to remember about any kind of beer, to be honest with you, if you add fruit into the beer as an adjunct, and that includes the peels of course, if you add fruit into beer as an adjunct, it's always going to suppress a little bit that green component that comes out of it anyway, and I think this beer is no exception to that. I think the Dekopon Shiranui that's in this is really pushing back against the green component in this one a little bit. So yeah, with this one there's a little bit of earthiness, like I said. You've got a wee bit of like a woody note as well, wee tiny bit of pine resin, which is going to be from the Chinook, some nice floral aromaticity, and yeah, you've also got that little bit of grassy, zesty sort of thing that's coming out of this one too. So yeah, all in all, the way this one goes together, I think, is yeah, all in all, the way this one goes together is really interesting in that regard. But yeah, that citrusy peel in this one is very, very pungent. But let's round off our look at the aroma then with a wee look at the fruity character with this one. So yeah, if I try and zoom in on that fruity character, I do get quite a bit of that oily orange from the Amarillo. That's quite prominent in this one, but I'm also getting bits of figgy character. Yeah, I'm also getting little bits of the figgy and kind of blackcurranty character, which will be the Simcoe in this case. Simcoe's a very interesting hop, particularly when you use it with a darker malt base, because it can give you all those red fruity notes. But yeah, the aroma that comes out of this, I think, is really very, very nice. I like the, other than that, I do maybe get like a little bit of apricot-y character out of this one. The Citra, I'm not picking up too much different from the Citra, but yeah, for me, a little bit of fig, blackcurrant, a lot of orange in this one, and it is a very citrusy leaning beer in all honesty. So yeah, as I always say, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But I think it is about time for us to try this one. But this is certainly one of the more unusual aromas that I've come across when it comes to Y Market Brewing. So let's have a taste of this one then and see what it's all about. Yeah, this one is the Decorian, a 7% Belgian style fruit ale, I guess we can call it. This one with Dekopon peels in it, along with a bunch of American hops. This one comes to you from Y Market Brewing in Nagoya in Aichi Prefecture, Japan. I'm just very curious about this one. Big thank you to Scott once again for making this review possible. Slàinte, skål, cheers, kampai. Yeah. Okay, and this is interesting actually. I'm going to say straight away, I can see why this beer has been classed as a black IPA. When you first take it in, it's got a hell of a kind of roasty toasty backbone to it. So yeah, they're calling this one a Belgian fruit ale, but it almost, the level of roasty toastiness that's in this beer is actually along the lines of what you'd expect from like a Russian Imperial Stout, like, you know, special, it's called Special B or Black Malt or something like this. Not even Carafa. Carafa's a little bit smoother. So yeah, I can see right away why some people might say, oh, this is a black IPA, and it does have a fair little bit of bitterness to it as well. So yeah, this is really interesting. But yeah, once your palate adjusts to this one, the flavour actually balances out quite nicely. But I have to admit, like, tasting this one, I don't think you'd ever find a beer like this outside of Japan, in all honesty. This is absolutely one that's really geared toward the Japanese palate, that's for sure. So yeah, just be prepared for that if you happen to be a Westerner like me coming across this particular beer. And this, I think it's fair to say as well, this is certainly one of the quirkier ones that I've come across, both from Japan and from Y Market Brewing. So yeah, thumbs up to them for trying something a wee bit unusual. But let's try and just break the beer down then and describe what's going on with the flavour a little bit more in depth for you. So we'll go to the middle third of your palate then, and we'll have a wee look at the backbone of the beer. So yeah, yeah, the backbone of this beer then, you've got that lovely roasty toasty well-fired bread crust in there. So yeah, lovely roasty toasty well-fired bread crust. As you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, you do get a little touch of woodiness out of this one, and I think there is a wee bit of a kind of drier, crackery character sitting on top of that. But really, the roasty toasty notes and the Dekopon that's in this one, they really they actually really resonate and kind of linger in the flavour of this beer. I find that really, I do find that really quite quirky with this one, in fact. So yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me in that regard. I have to say that is quite interesting with this beer. But yeah, how do we say? On top of that then, if we focus on the malty side of things, let's see, you've got that roasty toasty well-fired bread crust in this one. The Jacob's cream cracker on top of it. Then yeah, you've got the kind of bready notes coming out of this beer. So for me, there's a layer of like quite dry rye bread in this one. Then you've got another layer of wholemeal brown bread on top of that. And I'm just trying to figure out if there is a wee bit of brown sugar to this beer. The malt base comes across as being quite straightforward, in all honesty. Yeah, the malt base in this one's actually pretty dry, in all honesty. So yeah, as I say, you've got the rye bready layer, the wholemeal, the rye bready layer, the wholemeal brown bready layer. You've got a little bit of a more, how would we say, you've got a little bit of an almost, you've got a little bit of nutty character emerging from those as well. And then above that, you've got a wee bit of a more, you've got a little bit of a more kind of roasty, toasty, brown sugary character there. So yeah, above the bready layers, there's a little bit of roasty, toasty brown sugar. But the malty backbone in this beer is really not overly sweet, which I find quite interesting. So yeah, the way that pieces together, I think, is quite unusual in this beer. So yeah, I don't think there's too much else to say about the malty backbone in this one. As I say, I'm just surprised at how kind of almost dry it is. But yeah, in the dead centre palate, there's maybe a tiny little circle there where there's a wee tiny touch of like caramelly sweetness or something, and that of course will be the boozy side of this beer. But yeah, all in all, the way that goes together, I think, is pretty nice in this one. But yeah, that covers the middle third of your palate with the beer. The border region between middle and back third of your palate, then you get a little bit of a kind of bready build up in there. And as I say, there's a bit of rye bread in the base, the more wholemeal brown bread on top, and yeah, there's maybe just a very slight caramelly, spongy note sitting on top of that there. But yeah, as I've often said, sweeter flavours are going to come out further forward on the palate, more dry and bitter flavours are going to come out further back, and generally speaking, between middle and back third of your palate, you've got a little bit more of, you've got a little bit more, how would we say, the flavours have just got a little bit, they've just got kind of different intensities between middle and back third of your palate, but you're going to get the same notes out of it. So yeah, usually a bit more compressed on the middle third of your palate, but a little bit lighter and more airy on the back third of your palate. And you can certainly feel that's the case here. So yeah, on the back third of your palate, you can feel that the roasty, toasty, well-fired bread crust is even drier there. The crackery layer that sits above that, again, you can say the same of. You've got the rye bready layer, which was a little bit lighter, taller, and more airy. That's absolutely noticeable in this case. Then the wholemeal brown bready layer, which sits above that, is lighter, taller, and more airy. And you can feel a little bit of, there's a maybe slightly toasty brown sugary note just creeping over the top of that. There's that little bit just creeping over the top of the back third of your palate there. So that's quite interesting. Then of course you've got the yeasty side of things sitting on top of that back third of your palate. So yeah, the back third of your palate with this one then. How would you say, the back third of your palate with this beer, the yeasty side of things, at its core, the yeastiness is interesting because it actually adds a little bit more almost sweetness to the beer. I find the malt base in this one is quite dry. So the yeasty side of this beer, at its core, it's like a slightly, it's got a little bit of this kind of oily, sweet, caramel, spongy kind of character, almost like raisin bread, I think is a good way, or sultana bread is a good way to describe it. So you've got that sweeter core with the yeasty side of things, and as you move further out from that, it's got a little bit more of as you move further out from that, it's absolutely got a little bit more of a like a wholemeal brown bready sort of graininess to it, which I think is really nice. And yeah, as you move further out, beyond that, you've got a little bit more of a kind of brown bready bread crust in there. It's almost got a little bit of kind of toastiness and roastiness to it into the aftertaste as well. So again, that adds a wee bit more dryness into the aftertaste. But definitely, back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of compresses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the malty, yeasty side of this beer is quite interesting, but like I say, it's got quite a bit of dryness to it, almost akin to the RIS. Now, as I said earlier, the Dekopon peels that are in this, they're really suppressing the green component of this beer, but it's quite interesting. You've got this battle going on between like kind of pine resiny and floral bitterness, and this just really citrusy pungency that's coming out of that there. So yeah, the green component in this beer, if we can still call it that, is quite interesting. So in the back corners of the palate, you've definitely got a little bit of earthiness there. Then as you push further forward along the sides of the palate, you've absolutely got a little bit more of a kind of piney resinous character. Then yeah, as you move toward the front corners of your palate, the pine resin is going to come from the Chinook, of course, but then yeah, you've got that big floral aromaticity on the front corners of your tongue, and then round the front curve of your palate, you've got a lot of zesty, kind of grassy sort of things coming out of this beer. So yeah, the way that that goes together in this one for me is quite interesting. But on top of all of that, you've just got this citrusy Dekopon, Shiranui sort of thing. That's just really pushing against that. So you've got this little battle of spicy floral aromaticity, pine resin, and yeah, citrusy character that lingers there into the aftertaste. So yeah, I'm not sure what else we can really say about that, but let's focus on the fruity side of the beer then, and the front third of your palate, just to round off the flavour section of the video. So yeah, border region between front third and middle third of your palate then. You can feel the bready character just kind of builds up there. Once again, you've got the rye bread in the base, the wholemeal brown bread in the middle, and then the more, yeah, then you've got a little bit more of an almost toasty character sitting on top of that. Then you've got all these layers on the base of the front third of your palate. Yeah, the roasty toasty well-fired bread crust, the Jacob's cream cracker, rye bread, wholemeal brown bread, and then maybe just a toasty, slightly toasty brown sugary layer creeping forward. But then on top of that, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So let's have a wee look at that fruity side of things then. So yeah, fruity side of the beer, for me it's quite interesting. Like, you can feel that the fruity character is actually coming out quite nicely in this one, but you can feel it's almost like you've just got this cushion of like, yuzu's really not the right word. You can just feel there's this kind of cushion of citrus, and then all those oily fruits are coming out there. But yeah, at the back of that oily bubble where the fruity esters are pushing their way out, you definitely get a little bit of that kind of stronger grapefruit, which is your Chinook for sure. Then yeah, as you move further forward, you get a wee bit of the, you can feel there is a wee bit of the mango-y note from the Citra, in fairness. And then yeah, as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, there's how would you say, you start to get a little bit of an almost figgy-ish character. And then into the front half of the front third of your tongue, it's all the big oily, zesty, orangey character from the Amarillo. And then yeah, it's got beyond that, you've got a little bit of, how would we say, beyond that, there's a little bit of a more kind of, I do get a little bit of like fig and kind of black curranty character as well, and that's going to be the Simcoe that's giving you all of that. So yeah, fruity side of the beer, yeah, grapefruit further back, bit of from the Chinook, bit of mango from the Citra further forward, a wee bit of an almost figgy type character as you reach the middle. Then yeah, oily orange on the kind of front half of the front third of your palate, and a wee bit of a black curranty character there. But like I say, there's just this cushion of that really pungent citrus from the Ponce peel in this one, kind of underpinning all of that. So yeah, it's an interesting beer, this one, but I will say, if you're not used to some of these more unusual citrusy sort of Japanese sauces and things like that, this one I think would be a little bit unusual for you. It's yeah, it's quite the flavour in this one, it's really quite pungent. I don't know, maybe they've used a little bit too much peel, or it could just be like the sheer pungency of it. I mean, Japanese yuzu is one of these things, and yeah, the pungency that you get out of that is something, and that's really the case with this beer as well. So yeah, stylistically I can see why some people have listed this as a black IPA, because it does have that bitterness and it does have the kind of fruitiness to it, and yeah, the sheer citrusy pungency of it makes it kind of come out in that regard. But calling it a Belgian fruit ale, apart from the kind of yeasty character that's in this one, I struggle to see where the kind of Belgian side of this beer really comes out. So yeah, it's quite a quirky one, this, but I think it's fair to say this maybe isn't one of my favourite ones I've had from Y Market Brewing. This is definitely geared toward the Japanese palate, so I can see the Japanese really enjoying this one, but I think Westerners would probably find the flavour profile of this one a wee bit unusual, if you like. I think that's a fair statement to make. But still, it's cool that they're trying different things. We can say that at least. And it's the first time I've had Shiranui Dekopon in a beer, that's for sure. But yeah, let's round off the review then with a wee quick look at the mouthfeel. So for me, mouthfeel wise, this beer, it's mid-bodied. The carbonation is very, very smooth in this one, as you very often get with Japanese beer. It's got that typical cleanliness to it. As I've often said, Japan, volcanic island, very, very good water quality. That shines through in this beer. In terms of the IBU in this one, oh, this has got to be about maybe 60, 70, of course, but you could maybe argue that it's higher because of the sheer pungency of the citrus, and that for me adds a little bit of bitterness to the beer. You've also got the roastiness from the malt base as well. So this beer, it feels to me like a sort of 60, 70, maybe even 80 IBU sort of beer. But yeah, the malt base is a bit roasty, toasty underneath, smoother in the middle, very slightly sweet on top. Then yeah, you've got all the fruity character at this one, which is a wee bit oily, and it's got that big punchy, citrusy character to it as well. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. This has been a really quite interesting beer to try, and one that has tested my palate a little bit, and that's what you want after 4,000 odd beer reviews. So yeah, let's leave it there. This one was the Decorian, a 7% black IPA, citrusy fruit hybrid, I think we can call this one, from Y Market Brewing in Nagoya in Aichi Prefecture up in Japan. We'll be returning to these guys soon for a look at another IPA, one of the core ones that I haven't reviewed yet. But yeah, this has been a very interesting one to try. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Y Market Brewing as well. And I'll be seeing you guys again in another review very shortly. Slange, skål, cheers and kampai.